So it was me, it was a sledgehammer, and I did a damn good job. I cleaned up everything, and then I called my cousin and my father over and my brother. I was so proud of what I had done. They were like, yeah, Brittany, you need to get out of this house right now.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh. Joining us on this very special episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with not one, but two real estate professionals. We want to welcome Daisha Makhene and Brittany Gardner. How you doing, ladies?
We doing good. I'm doing amazing. I'm so happy to be here. How you doing, girl? I'm excited.
I thought you was talking to me. I was like, okay, oh, you calling me girl?
We are truly excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I tell all my guests, thank you for accepting our invitation and taking time out of your very, very busy schedule. I appreciate that first and foremost. So we are here to talk about business, but I want to talk about you as a individual first, all right? So I want you both, in 60 seconds or less, tell us who you are outside of real estate, please.
Okay, I'll go first. So I wear a few hats outside of real estate. I am a mother first. I have a 7-year-old son and a 10-year-old son, so I am a proud boy mom.
Nice.
I am a daughter. I am a friend. I am a sister. And most importantly, I have a real passion for real estate, so that also is just about all of who I am.
Nice, nice. Daisha?
Well, Britt calls me a serial entrepreneur, but my focus is really to build the real estate empire that we're looking to. You know, that includes real estate tax, real estate schools. We just have so many different strategies and I think dreams, you know. So I am a full-time worker. I do not have I call myself a worker entrepreneur, but that entails leveraging corporate strategy and network marketing as well.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Some hustlers, some ladies out there putting boots to the ground, getting things done. I love to see it first and foremost. All right, so we already here for real estate, so let's start digging into it. I want you to describe your real estate business for our audience. And if you are able to, hit on a few key points, how long you've been licensed, if you have a niche or specialty, and or if you have any notable achievements.
Okay. So I have actually been in real estate for, I really don't even want to do the math. It's been quite some time. I actually started at 19 years old. My journey just started with me purchasing, my first investment property. And within doing that, it led me to acquiring my actual license, but it was quite some time before I actually acquired my license. So I have been licensed for about 5 years now. And my path has been an amazing one. Interesting because of my entrance into it personally with my own endeavors, with investing here. And what was the second part of the question? Just
notable achievements, niche or specialty, as well as how long you've been licensed.
Okay, so one of the things that I am most proud of, to be honest, one of the hardest things I ever worked on was leveraging the United States and getting licensed in different territories within the United States. And so I kind of broke down the territory of the United States based off of regions. During the pandemic, I had personally more time on my hands than I ever imagined based off of me having these two young sons. So during that time, I'm like, I have to do something that is going to allow me to leverage my business
Right.
during this time while I'm not able to be boots on ground like I'm used to doing. And so I went back to my roots of school. I mean, what else could I do? And so I use the time to, while I'm sitting here helping my young sons gain education because we were mandated to, I decided to take that time to also further my education in real estate, maybe not the most traditional way, but I went and got licensed. So I'm licensed here. I'm licensed in Georgia, Florida, Virginia, and I'm working on being licensed in Texas. So that is one of the biggest accomplishments that I can say that I have done in the business was leveraging my time properly to get that licensing.
Nice, nice, beautiful. Okay, Deja.
Yeah, so I mean, I had to let her go because her long laundry list. You know, so for me, I think how I started was really in the mortgage industry. I
Uh-huh.
worked for a billion-dollar mortgage company, and in Detroit, with it being so prominent, I was able to kind of network and build relationships and learn the whole business of real estate. And after I did leadership in that entity, I decided to, convert myself into betting on myself. And so I went into real estate in 2017. I started doing mortgages in 14. So I was basically able to kind of be a student, learn the business, and then make a choice on how I can get closer to the business. So my biggest accomplishment, I think, in general, is finding the passion of mentorship. That's how me and Britt connected because our brokerage that we work together on allows you to create a team. You get to create a culture and really educate people on things that you probably didn't get from day one. Um, so I've been able to mentor when it comes to just financial awareness, but also real estate, over 200 people and build a business around that. So we are
Beautiful.
readily, looking for agents to join our team and follow the blueprint and really get results. So that's pretty much where me and her connected, just simply because we have a passion for real estate and mentorship, and it, is just a great pie.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It seems like both of your energies kind of match. Your chemistry and your synergy seems to be working and clicking right on point. So I can see that. I can see that. So you all met pretty much through the industry. You weren't like grade school friends or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Nice.
The crazy thing is that me and Brett knew each other pretty much before we met. Detroit, I feel like when I first started, it wasn't like a big real estate market, like where there was a lot of competitive, the amount of realtors that were on the floor. People weren't really educated about the value of real estate. So me and her were in the field she was an investor. She worked with some other investors. And then I knew her family too. That's another story. But a mutual investor, or I guess a friend, educated us on one another. And then it took about 2 or 3 years. We actually worked at, is it one or two brokers? You worked at one with me?
One.
Okay, one with me before this. But we didn't work together. We just were
Right.
aware of those accomplishments because, anywhere we go, we're the obvious choice.
Okay. Okay. I want to ask this question. I'm from Detroit too, and I started my mortgage industry or real estate industry or professional, whatever you want to call it.
It's just,
Back in Detroit when I worked for a company too. Now I don't want to say the name, but it rhymes with stick and phones. You two,
Okay.
did you two work there too? Is that what you're talking about? Did you two work there?
yeah, I got
Right. Did you two
Yeah.
work there too? Is that what you're talking about, or is it something else?
Good. I have worked
We both
there
worked there.
at a point in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it
It
because
provided me with a great base knowledge for
absolutely.
things that I do. I definitely use that to translate into my current role.
I mean, and that speaks on my set because you get the exposure. I mean, it was
Yep,
definitely
yep.
results, a good environment. You were compensated properly at the time,
Correct.
So it definitely gave me my ability to feel comfortable with networking and getting in the field and knowing that I want more. So I would never, ever, but
No, I get it. And I asked that question because I know a few people, including myself, who worked there And that, it was like a big high school first and foremost. Like everybody from Detroit, it seemed like either worked there or knew somebody that worked there. But I asked that because I know a few people who either work there now or used to work there, and they further along their career in real estate or in mortgages, or got their license in underwriting, got their license as an agent or as a broker or something like that. So it's interesting to see that. And it's a lot of people from, I guess you would say my generation, being in my 30s, early to mid 30s. Like it's a lot of people in that generation. So I like to see that. I like to see that because it's empowering us. It's giving us more information and knowledge, especially in that Detroit market, to take advantage of real estate. Yeah, that's important.
Well, that's
Love
good.
to hear it. All right, so we already talked about it a little bit, but I want to give you the floor so you can elaborate a little bit more. Your current market that you serve. We already said Detroit for the most part, right? So let's just get into a little bit more detailed specifics. I want you to describe your market geographically. So obviously we know Detroit, but get into some of the insights of Detroit, the attractions, the notable landmarks, things that Detroit is known for. Like describe it for people who've never been there, then get into some of the economics, the data, the statistics when it comes to real estate, how long homes are on the market, average price, etc. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I can go first. I think when I started, my main focus was Detroit, but now that I'm in almost year 6, 7 as a realtor, you definitely have to be intentional. So my primary focus is really price point. You know, most of the time, most of my business is definitely in the Tri-County, Wayne County, Oakland County, area. But I think with us being an international real estate team, we are really focused on price point. But we can definitely speak on Oakland County and Wayne County as far as that. Go further.
Well, so I look at all of Michigan because you have to understand all of it in order to understand the pockets of it. So, the average sale price across the whole state of Michigan is about 250,000.
Okay.
That is the average across the whole state of Michigan. Now, if we break it down to counties, Wayne County, the average value was about 86,000. Oakland County, the average value was about 230,000. So when you break it down to counties, that's what you're looking at. But then you also have to look at how much we make on average. You know, we have to, and shout out to all, everyone in the industries, but this is more of a blue collar state. So we have a lot of service jobs, a lot of manufacturer jobs. So that is the basis of our economics here in Michigan.
I will also add on that being in the real estate market, you have to know what's going on, like economically. Like right now, me and Britt were talking earlier about the strikes, and it goes from the plants, the nursing field, So realistically, you have to know what the climate is for you to be able to focus on a certain niche or specialty, but also be flexible, because that's why I harped on mindset at the beginning, because you have to be aware so that you can pivot, so that you can make adjustments and really leverage the time that you have to put towards this industry, because not everybody does it full time for it to be intentional and also lucrative.
No. Great points. Some interesting new information too, as far as the average price point for the entire state of Michigan, 250,000. Correct. That's something new information that I haven't heard. So, and which, when I think about it in perspective to other states, it's actually pretty decent. And I've said this before, it really boils down to what specific market within the state. But 250 compared to what's going on in Florida or California, it's very, very nice if you ask me. I want to speak on something that you mentioned also, Brittany. You said the average value in Wayne County, 86,000, in Oakland, 230,000. Was that a mistake, or is it that big of a gap?
Well, when you're purchasing, so no.
Okay. And what do you mean by value exactly? Elaborate, please.
So value is what appraisals are for. So the appraiser comes out, they assess the value. It's graded on a few different levels of criteria. the main thing is the location, obviously the size, the layout and structure, the updates that are in the home. So the appraiser goes out to the property and they assess the value of the home. So whatever the appraised value is what the value would be. Now the average purchase is about 86,000 in the city of Detroit.
Wow. Whoa. Hold on.
But
The average.
the medium value for all homeowners across the city of Detroit or Wayne County, I should say. Let me redact that. Wayne County is 136,000.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Still relatively low. Definitely low relative to a bunch of other counties, but the difference between that and a county that's right there, Oakland County, is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Being from Detroit, I understand though, right? There's borders,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, that separate different economic lifestyles. Well, you know, it's the same for other metropolitan areas, but Detroit is a perfect example of that. You cross 8 Mile or Woodward or something like that, or Telegraph, you're in a completely different municipality with different values. So I get it. So interesting information though. Thank you for explaining that.
But
All
to
right,
also
so
add
go ahead, please.
Just to add on, I think one thing you guys hit on was appraisals, but over the last few years, I mean, it honestly has increased because the comparative homes are being sold for higher prices. So yeah, it's tough, but it used to be almost, I would say, almost 15,000 less just 2-3 years ago, you know.
That's
so,
a fact.
and then also it's the structure of the county and, you know, in what they do and the grades they can get. So we can only go based off of, you know, what the value is, and really as a realtor going to other areas that do have higher value as far as compensation goes.
Good points too. Thanks for adding that on. I want to talk about your work. I know your daily tasks vary, right? You're not doing the exact same thing every day, but for the most part, there is a foundation or whatever. I want you to walk us through, both of you, what your average day looks like. If you want to make it easier, you can do one of your most recent days. So just talk about what your routine consists of from beginning all the way through the end of the day.
Okay, so the goal is to start your day at 5 o'clock in the morning. That is the absolute goal. Now, what I will tell you is, it doesn't mean that I'm getting up and I'm actually like responding to emails or I'm talking to anyone or anything like that. It means like the exact opposite. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I am literally to myself. There is no one there but me and the good Lord.
There you go.
So I wake up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. I take time for myself. I meditate. I pray.
Yeah.
I do mindful things because, as Daisha has mentioned many, many of times, the biggest part of this business is mindset. And so I have to start the day off strong because there are things that we have to do. So I get up. I take time for myself. I am then instantly in mom mode. I'm making lunches. I probably should take time to do that in the evening, but I don't. I do them in the morning. They get dressed. We leave out for school, drop them off. I get into the office and I'm making calls. I am constantly outreaching. This is an outreach business. I do not expect anyone to just come knock on my door, so to speak. It is my goal to make sure that I am reaching as many people as possible. So I spend my mornings doing that. And then I start addressing emails towards the middle of the afternoon. If I'm not able to do them prior to dropping my kids off to school. And the afternoons are for appointments. And I'm on appointment.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I think a typical day for a realtor is what Britt is explaining. She is like one of the most consistent people when it comes to lead generation in the business, because there are a lot of different parts to being a realtor, you know, outside of just posting on the social for marketing. You know, it's, you know, building connections, going to networking events, building relationships to kind of create that credibility, and then also community work. What I love is that what we do as an organization with our realtors is really create a creative way to market, and yeah, we hustle, but we want to be intentional with the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the season, we may be door knocking. Depending on the season, we may be sponsoring events to create awareness to what we do. But one thing that me and Britt are focused on is building relationships with people out here for brand awareness. Our team is very unique because the brokerage that we work with, we can work with international clients, and we can also, provide a concierge service from chauffeuring showings, or allowing people to access waterfront properties in a different perspective through like a boat. So we do things very fun, and so for me, every day is different.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
have other businesses, so I do have to allocate time to that as well. Um, and I feel like the most consistent thing that you can do as a realtor every day is try to meet anywhere from 2 to 3 new people, get their contact information, and then position yourself to to show the value,
Right.
so that they naturally think about you when it comes to real estate or mentorship. In my case,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great job, great job. And that's the essential core of any business for the most part. You gotta have
okay,
some type of lead generation because that's what's going to thrive your business, those sales. And
yeah,
you gotta have that personable attitude for the most part. You want to be able to be approachable for people to, I, I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with that very, very often myself because I feel like I'm very introverted, but what I
yeah,
do is very opposite of that, if that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah,
So I get it. I feel like that's a skill in itself. That's essentially what I was
it
coming
is.
to.
It's a job
Being
in it.
able to get
Yeah,
out there, yeah, being able to get out there and talk to strangers and try to find that common ground. And so I got to applaud you on that first and foremost because not everybody has that inside of them.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, every business needs it. Like, it doesn't
yeah,
matter what
yeah, yeah,
industry it is. How are you going to attract your clientele? How are you going
yeah.
to find the business versus the business coming to you? You know?
When we started the show, before we even started recording, we did a word association game, and one of the words was zoning. And I forgot which one of you said it, but one of you said restriction, and that's
Exactly.
interesting. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit. Can you recall a situation where you had to navigate the purchase or sale of a home that had a complex zoning issue or legal issue? And can you talk about how you guided your clients through the process to get that successful transaction?
Well, I have encountered zoning for cannabis clients,
Mm,
especially years previous. It is not such a, issue now, but years previous, there were a lot of zoning that went around that in trying to move in front of the pendulum on it, so to speak.
okay.
And then also with trying to acquire buildings for that a client may want to turn into a bar. Those liquor license, those are quite expensive, and the
Hmm.
zoning that is around it. But more importantly, um, like adult housing, foster care homes, things in that
Hmm.
nature. Adult foster care homes. It's all there's always a need, but there are also restrictions that go along with where they can be, even though it does require residential housing. There are restrictions as to where this house can sit in order for it to be used as an adult foster care home.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would add, for as far as the zoning goes, like, it just really, I feel like legal issues we deal with all the time because of title. Like, that's legal. Is this person, deceased, or do they still have an interest in the problem? But when it comes to zoning out here, like, now, even now that the cannabis, I guess, community is more prevalent and it's more aware, it's still an issue because there's so many sticky things. Like, I feel like we're an industrial city a little bit, but we still have a liquor store and a church on every single corner.
And dispensary.
It prevents us to be able to grow a business around this because, yeah, we'll give you the ability to be interested and want to pay all these money for this licensing, but we're going to create a barrier for you when it comes to setting up. That's why people kind of go to Oklahoma to kind of get licensing and then bring it here to do like certain portions, especially with cannabis, because it's from the growing stage, the retail stage. Like, it's extremely difficult to even find a business, even though we have so many vacant commercial properties.
Interesting. So you said explain that to me again. You say they go to Oklahoma and come back. Who is they again? And what
Well,
is that process they're going
again,
for?
we're talking about the black issue, Kevin. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about they, but I'm gonna talk about the people that's interested in the cannabis. I guess.
Okay, I got you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, say less. Say less. I got you.
You know, talking
Okay,
about client sign NDAs.
I get that. You know what? I never thought about that though, right? Because there would be certain restrictions with having certain commercial properties in certain areas if it's near a liquor store or something like that. And there's 1,000 of them
Yeah.
around there, especially within the inner city. So,
Schools and churches.
Schools and churches. So with the idea of a lot of schools closing, unfortunately, that has helped broaden, the accessibility for certain licensing in certain areas. But I recently
I
read,
get it.
and I have not actually looked further into this yet, but we can all be a community and look into this more. But I recently read that the city of Detroit is not offering any new liquor license. They'll honor those that exist, but they are not actually giving out or dispersing anymore. I don't know if it's like for time, but that is something that
Mm.
that also helps if you have a building and you have a liquor license currently, and that the city is not offering anymore.
But that kind of, and I feel like, and I don't want to be controversial or nothing, but in the city of Detroit alone, we're predominantly African American. And what I find with working, I was just telling Britt, our team just recently got a commercial listing that's in Detroit. But when it comes to the liquor license, the person that really is running the business has invested the money. He can't even acquire a transfer. So now he has
right.
to negotiate
Yep.
a business deal with the person that owns it. Not like a land contract or anything like that, but a business deal for him to essentially leverage him as the like silent investor almost, because
Right.
he has the license and they won't allow him to get a new one. So he has to basically renew it and like do deals that way. It's definitely a struggle. And on top of that, especially with Wayne County, things are delayed, unfortunately. Like
Oh,
it takes months and months. Like when it comes to contractors, when it comes to permits,
yes.
when it gets to, like, even with the land bank, if you buy more than 12 houses, they want to see a development deal. Like they want to see what your plan is, because now they look at you
That
as a
makes sense though, because most of
I
those
mean, it's a
properties in
good
a
thing,
land
but my
bank,
point
yeah.
is a lot of restrictions. You know
I
what I
get,
mean?
yeah, I get it, I get it. And oh my God, I feel like I was just talking about this to a guest previously, but
Yeah.
before I got on with you, I literally was on the phone with one of my friends who's a firefighter in Detroit, telling me that, and I don't want to say too much, but there's an issue with the city not submitting some documents that they needed in order to keep their jobs, and someone dropped the ball and didn't submit them to the state. I don't want to get into it, but that just goes into, I literally talked about this last episode.
Yeah.
Municipalities and those offices there, like taking so much time or delaying to
Right.
do something that is very, very critical for other people's operations. I don't understand that, specifically in Wayne County, but
And that's why I kind of mentioned at the beginning, like when you get to a point in real estate, you got to be intentional. You have to be strategic. And what we're seeing is dealing with Oakland County, Macomb County, these other areas that, city inspections are finished completely. OTCs are issued immediately. Like, I mean, it is,
we got to do better.
unfortunately, it's like when I first started doing real estate, and I'm sorry, but when I first started doing real estate, I really wanted to help my community. But I think people fail to realize that that means you have to be involved in so many pockets. Like, that's why we build relationships with, like, managers of the mayor's office and, community presidents, and really just being in the community, from pastors to, renters. And it's simply because we need to understand, like, where is the disconnect,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, some things that you want to do, you can't even do. You have to venture out and go to other counties to be able to make real money.
Oof.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, no, that's the unfortunate truth, though. That's the unfortunate truth. No, you had to get that off your chest, and I'm glad you did, because you hit on a lot of key points with that. But it's something that you said that makes a great segue for what I want to ask you. I saw that you recently were a speaker, or I believe you were a speaker at a TED Talk event, and you mentioned serving your community with integrity. So let's dig into that, specifically with being in the Metro Detroit area. What does it mean to serve your community with integrity, one? And then can you give a real life example of you actually serving your community with integrity?
Yeah. So when I say serving my community with integrity, is essentially being okay with educating them, you know, because a lot of people, I feel like in business, entrepreneurs are looking for, and this may sound cliche, but people are looking for what's in it for them, and that's what's in it for them, you know?
Right.
So what I've seen over the last few years, and when I did the TED Talk with the community event, this was in 2000 and maybe 19 or maybe 20. And now in 2023, you do see that the shift in entrepreneurship is at the forefront of education, even if it's for profit. But people are dropping value, and people are actually going out in the community doing free events. I mean, give backs, like almost community. Even I always say his name wrong, but I think it's Rafa. I'm not quite sure. But he just opened up a neighborhood grocery store. It's basically like,
oh, I saw that.
Yeah, you know, so they're literally investing in their purpose to do things for the community. And but when I was growing up in this business, 2010, 2011, 2014, people were cutthroat. You know, they were not, you know, they were not in the business to provide value. They were, you know, scamming and grabbing. Like, it was bad, you know. So I was doing community, you know, events like going to the pastor's church and bringing renters in the church. Actually, Pastor Welton on 6 Mile, Livernois, he has New Life Church or whatever. He was actually, we were building relationships with pastors in the community that already have the community attention. But I was looking for pastors that had millennial attention, you know. That's what his focus was. Of course, there were some like forefathers and people that have been in the church and seen him grow, because he's like 34, 35. So I saw him working with Kim Tandy, which is a District 2 manager of the mayor's office. And I had a connection with Bagley president, community president. He pretty much connected me with the pastor and allowed me to speak in front of renters. So we did about maybe 10 segments. Nice. There was people that were in there that were 80. There were people that were in there that were 19. We brought mortgage mortgage professionals. We brought insurance professionals, title, to really just educate the process. Because when I first started real estate, I realized that I can't attract the audience that I have been raised around. I have to create a new audience, because some people are just not educated about a basic purchase, the value of buying a house. They'll sit there at a closing and sign 100 docs and still have no clue what an escrow account is. Like, you know, so it's just the lack of education because the lack of exposure. It's just that simple.
Interesting. And I would agree too. It's kind of a battle, you know. You want to help certain people, but you also have to know that those people want help. Yeah, they have to want help. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink type situation, right? So it's like
won't drink.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of hard, especially when you want to help somebody so bad, but you just end up finding out that they just really don't want the help, or if you do help them and they don't continue the process from there. It is a little disheartening, but nonetheless, as long as you're doing the work like you are doing, serving your community with integrity, I love it, and I gotta respect it, especially being a Detroiter myself. So great job, great work that you're doing out there. I want to ask you both about dealing with family in this real estate business. So a lot of real estate agents, what'd you say?
I don't see that question.
Oh, but the thing about this is, I know a lot of agents when they're first starting off, a lot of their transactions come from family, depending on the situation. But you as real estate professionals, how do you kind of strike the balance between being an on-point real estate professional, keeping it sharp, and actually being a caring, sensitive family member when dealing with these real estate transactions that involve family members?
I'll let you go.
Or even family members who are inquiring about real estate?
You know what? To be honest, with friends, family, stranger, not, you have to set the tone that, listen, let's talk about this real estate. You have to look them dead in their eye. You know? You got to look them in their eye, and you have to just have a very sound conversation and remove the family from it. And I think that the best way to do that is to provide education the whole entire way through. So with everything that you are doing, you show the value in the conversation by constantly providing bits of education and layering all of this education. So that way they understand, okay, listen, oh, she's talking about the business right now. Let me take away the sister, cousin, family vibe or friend vibe. And because the education is there, the process is there is something that needs to be done, and then you end the conversation with a bit of action for them to do. So that way there is something to hold each other accountable on as well. So if you add that education, accountability, and a piece of action item for them to do, you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. Set the tone.
I think Brittany hit everything on the nail. The only thing I would add is expectation, setting the expectation so that they can, know what we do for buyers, regardless if it's family or friends. You have a buyer's consultation. At that point, we are educating you on what the process looks like, and what people fail to realize is regardless if it's a friend or foe, it's a client. So you are being judged, you are being looked at, then, and your family is really harder on you than a stranger, and while you were asking this question, I was sitting back thinking, like, I don't really think I've had the amount of support in the family and the friend, well, maybe some friends, but the family and the friend structure when it comes to closed deals. You know what I'm saying? People can step in and be interested in what you do. You got a couple different ways to look at it. People want to know what's going on. People want to see what's going on, or they're going to support you to make it happen, and it goes back to exposure. I just wasn't around people that owned houses, that were really educated on how to get equity. I think luckily for me, when I got in the business, everybody wanted to be an investor. So people don't really know what they need to buy houses. So they would call me and say, hey, I got 30,000, but I know it's not enough to buy a house. And I'm like, do you know where you live? Like, we can talk about how to create a plan so that it's not just a decision in December and you think you're going to execute in January. No, let's make a plan in March. Create the capital, whatever, do whatever you need to do for your credit to get the funding. But nowadays, these banks are throwing money at people. So it's a lot easier to get people pre-approved that may have not been the best choice 2 years ago.
Deja, I think go ahead, please.
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to tell them.
I had the opposite experience. Yeah. Everyone in my family loves real estate. They are all involved in real estate. So we are all business partners. Yeah. Okay. So we have an entire plumbing company. We have an electrical company. Yeah. We have someone with a builder's license. So we literally could probably build a house from the ground up. So
inspection.
We have
her exposure was always different. That's what made me fall in love with Britt because, you're the youngest of what? 8. Right. So, sheesh. So, she got developers in her family, people that own multiple properties. She owns 20 herself, so it's really about, the environment that you're in and what you do with the environment. You can be in the right area, but if you're not learning, being a student, actually creating a plan and then executing, it doesn't matter.
And then another layer to that is, like you mentioned, how do you kind of create those boundaries? Because I learned the hard way. You don't have boundaries. And especially if you're not necessarily seasoned. So a lot of the reason why my family worked with me was because of my whole intro into real estate with purchasing investment properties. So it's like, oh yeah, I need an investment property too, or I want to buy some more investment properties. So we're buying investment properties together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
good.
but with doing so, you might go above and beyond for your family, and you do have to create those boundaries. So I noticed that, once you create those boundaries, but that's with your business in general,
Correct. Correct.
because the best business owner is someone who does come from a servitude heart, and I am certainly a servitude person. Like, that is how I show,
Yeah.
and that is where the passion comes from. Every morning at 5 o'clock, I do ask God, Lord, thank you for waking me up, and I just ask that you continue to use me as a vessel to help impact others through the realm of real estate. And so in doing that, I understand what comes from that. And so I do have to create those boundaries.
And she got to create boundaries because, like, when you deal with people like in mentorship and clients, like mentally you have to be strong because you consume so many personalities, energies, experiences,
Yeah.
like, and it makes you either close in or not just be your best sometimes. So you have to create boundaries so people don't feel like you got the capacity for this, to be honest, because sometimes we don't.
Appreciate it. Hey, let me tell you, I'm glad y'all elaborated more on that because I felt like, Daisy, you did a great job, but I thought Brittany avoided the hard part of that question, which was dealing with family members. Yeah, because I'm like, you have to, not necessarily, but I would imagine as an agent, once your family knows, they're like, you might have a cousin, a sister, brother, like, oh, you got your, like, what is this? Show me this house over here I was looking at real quick. Why don't you just show me real quick? I know you can go show me. Come on, just pull over. It's like, it doesn't work like that, auntie. Or it doesn't work like that.
And that's where the education piece comes in. You have
Good
to,
point.
because like Deja mentioned, unfortunately, purchasing homes is not talked about at dinner tables quite
Correct.
often. I was
Correct.
blessed enough to grow up in a home where my parents owned the home, but many of my friends and some relatives did not own homes. And so you don't really talk about it. You just, shelter is just the main thing. Do we have shelter? But to elevate our minds or to open our mindsets around home ownership and the benefits instead of the restrictions, like we mentioned before, that may come with home ownership. If we really open our minds and understand, like, no, instead of you depositing 800, 900, 1,000, I mean, average rental prices now are north of $1,000.
Yeah.
You can't find anything for $600 for rent anymore. So if you're depositing that sort of money into someone else, imagine thinking of your house as not a bill, but an asset. That is
Correct.
your bank account. You're putting it
Correct.
back
Yep.
in there.
I say the exact same thing. Love that perspective right there. Let's continue to keep you on the mic, Brittany, because I want to ask you about your experience purchasing your first investment property at the young, tender age of 19 years old.
Whoa.
I know with that being your first property, first investment property, it wasn't super smooth. I'm pretty sure there was some things that happened that you wish you could have fixed. So let's dig into that a little bit. What were some of the lessons that you learned from that situation, and how do you prepare your clients to avoid making the same mistakes?
Well, first of all, the first house that I bought, it was amazing. I made zero mistakes.
I'm like, that's not what I read. But all right.
No, I read.
No, I'm just kidding. It was a beautiful disaster. It was
wow.
like it's like when you do things that young in life, and you know the intention, you know the heart, you know the effort, all of it. It's like, I wish I could just go back and give myself a hug. Like, oh, you don't worry about it, Brittany. You did a good job. You did a good job.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that I learned about purchasing an investment property is making sure that you look at how much you are spending, because the amount that you spend will eat up any bit of profit that you thought. And it is important when you are purchasing for an investment property that you really go into it with very firm numbers. If you remove the firmness at any cost, you are in trouble. And the way to ensure that you have firm numbers is to do the work on the front end of things. It is very important that you spend a little bit of money by having those home inspections, by having your contractors come out to any said property, whether it be residential or commercial,
Right.
to just give you a true look at the current condition of the property with your ultimate goal in mind to see what that gap is going to look like. Because when I bought my property at 19, I did none of that. And like I mentioned, I have a lot of contractors and relationships within my own immediate family, like speed dial, emergency contacts. I could call them, and these people, my family could literally come and look at a house and tell me yes or no. But at 19, I was extremely tenacious. It didn't, and I decided to purchase this home because I had the money to do it, and that is all I was concerned about, was the money. So I spent the initial money, and after that, I watched a little bit too much HGTV, and I felt like I could go in there and do whatever I wanted. Okay.
Oh boy.
And in the midst of me doing whatever I wanted, I probably could have killed myself, because I called my family, and there's this thing about houses. You might want to knock a wall down, but you might not be able to, because you have to determine whether or not it's a low-bearing wall. And so I went in not even thinking about whether or not it would structurally interrupt the integrity of the home by knocking
knocked the wall down.
wall. I wanted to see from the kitchen to the dining room, and that was all I wrote, okay? So it was me, it was a sledgehammer, and I went for it, and I did a damn good job.
Okay.
It was the best demo ever.
It was the best job ever. I cleaned up everything, and then I called my cousin and my father over, and my brother. I was so proud of what I had done. So I called them over, and they were like, "Yeah, Brittany, you need to get out of this house right now, because you have structurally interrupted this home. This home is not structurally safe anymore.
Wow.
Beams, you have done way too much." And so, with that very, very brave idea, it cost me so much money. So, the one thing that I tell investors is we can continue to watch these TV shows if we like, and I know it looks cute, easy, and simple. It's done in a quick 30-minute episode, and you look like you can do it. Then you see these TikToks. You see all of these different things on social media and on the television. Just be mindful. Make sure you talk to a contractor, even if it's just you spending $75 for somebody to come look at the job and give you their thoughts of what would need to be done. Just have a notepad. Sit there and listen to what they're going to do, and better assess if that's something that you can do, because just sitting there listening to them and educating yourself from that aspect, it will probably bring up some things that you did not consider.
It'll give you a starting point.
Yeah.
I think like most investors, when you go into things, they only think about how much they want to spend to purchase, but they don't think about how to rehab.
Oh yeah.
Have now been investors and just more knowledgeable, because the bulk of the buyers, I would say, especially in Detroit, even the people in Detroit, they want to buy out in East Point, Southfield, Oak Park, Ypsilanti, Belleville, etc. What we found is that it's really it's a numbers game, right? Most investors don't want to, and it may change a little bit depending on like the long-term value, or like how long they're going to keep it. But mostly it's 75%, all in, compared to the after repair value, right? And if they're looking at like a rental portfolio, they may not care about the full investment, but typically 85-90%. They don't want to go all in as far as the comparison to the after repair value, the monthly cash flow, and the expenses. So she didn't know any of that in 19, because most of them we don't. But she was able to acquire houses. I don't want to give people your age, but she was able to acquire houses when the houses was $500. So
our first house, it was only $500. And the other thing that I try to get, especially So that information of making sure it's a job that you can do, because the most expensive, my father always says, the most expensive thing that you can pay for is the thing you can have to pay for twice. So with all of that work that
Ooh,
I did, with all
that's
of
a
that,
bar.
with all of that time and energy that I can never get back,
Yeah.
like I had to redo it again because I had to see the project through. So paying for certain things twice is another thing
Woo.
that eat up your budget.
And leverage your
Woo.
And the final thing that I really learned through my journey of investing is paying attention to the materials that are currently being used. Do not specify your house if it is for the purposes of investment. Do not specify or customize a house for something that you would want. It is more so about what is being used, what materials are being used. You don't need the biggest space. You don't need a 4,000 square foot 3 bedroom home. You just need
Yep.
a 3 bedroom home.
Right.
You know, if it's 1,100 square feet, that's perfect because every square foot counts for, you know, turnover costs. When you have to repaint all the walls, you might need to clean
As
all
a
the
rental.
carpet. Yeah, for rental.
rentals. Yeah.
You might need to replace carpet. So you just have to think about your overhead costs when you are doing investments. And you have
Yep.
to think about the costs that matter the most, whether you are doing it for a long time or short.
And if
short.
you're flipping, you find out what the other houses, the houses that are selling in the area, what do those houses look like? And then you go duplicate that. Of course, you can put a signature piece because a lot of people are trying to be known for flips nowadays in Detroit. So if you put a signature piece, you know, that's great. But realistically, duplicate what you see as far as the colors, the countertops, the flooring, you know, all of that in the area so that you don't necessarily have to worry about it being so competitive, if that makes sense.
Correct, correct. Good points, too. Good points. Yeah, see, the thing about it is, I think it's best that you still made that, not even attempt, but you actually did it, Brittany. You actually
Yeah,
bought
sure.
the investment property and you actually, like, went through the process. Now, even though it probably didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to turn out, but you can still say that you did it, and you did it at a young age. See, that's the thing
you
that, like,
did
you
it
made that
again.
mistake.
How
Yeah,
did
but
you
you
do it
made that
again?
mistake. But you did it at an early enough age to recover. It's not like you did it in your
Yes.
50s. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
All respect to anybody who does it still, even in their
Yes.
50s. But what I'm saying is, I respect the fact that you attempted that in an early age because most people, like you said, they don't even have that knowledge to even do it, let alone the knowledge and the will. But you had both. You did it, and like I said, it was a learning lesson. But nonetheless, you know what to do and what not to do going forward, and you pass that on to your clients. I can't do nothing but honor that.
And yeah,
So.
absolutely. That personal exposure and that personal experience, people honor that and they respect that drastically.
I got a bonus question for you both before we get out of here. I want you both to answer this for me, and you might have to think about it a little bit, but I'm gonna put it out there. What key lessons have you learned about yourself, the real estate industry, and the importance of serving others? I say it again. Throughout your career, reflecting, what have you learned about yourself, the real estate industry, and the importance of serving others?
Okay, I'll go first. The one thing that I really learned about myself is that during my journey, I did not give myself enough grace. I did not give myself enough grace, and I did not understand how much grace is really required because they say oftentimes like you're too hard on yourself. You're too hard on yourself, but that really does matter because it can counteract with your progression, so to speak. So one thing that I have learned to do was show myself a little bit more grace and stop looking at my journey so right in front of my face.
Narrow.
Yeah, so so narrow and so short, instead, really looking at the entire trajectory and, walking with my head this high so that I can see everything in front of me instead of focusing on every single footstep. And I'll be honest, one of the things that has helped me do that I'm terrible at it. I am terrible at it, and I am working on it. So please don't judge me, good people. But it's social media, just to
Mm.
document, and it's more of a journal, so to speak. It's more of like, this is my mini documentary. If I could really take the time to get out there and really, put the stuff out there the way I should consistently. But just being able to watch my journey or play my journey back just through the vehicle of social media, in my journals and journaling it, that has really helped me.
I like that.
So, that was the answer for the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question, what have I learned about myself? Okay. Um, hmm. I've been on a personal development journey since 2017. Like, I tell people that if they were to run it back for every, organization I worked in or built, I started a personal development journey in 2017. So what I learned about myself is that I can achieve anything I put my mind to. Um, what I've learned is that anybody can, but the lack is really the consistency and the patience and the delayed
Mm.
gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Because any business that you work on, if you work on it for 3, 4, 5 years, it will be better and better and better. And even if it may not financially be better, you may have learned something more,
Correct.
you know? And so people need to appreciate the experiences because every obstacle we've ever encountered, we literally overcame. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's how we're here. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's really just um, being realistic, identifying bad habits that I have and certain things that I need to put more discipline towards, and being patient um, with just delayed gratification. That's the biggest thing for me because I think at the beginning of my entrepreneurship career in 16, it was more so very impulsive. I had leveraged that company to save 60 bands, and so I was like, okay, let me put this money towards a business, but I didn't have a plan. So I was extremely impulsive. Um, but I feel like God positioned me to be in some of those quick environments to make quick money so that I can see what it is to make real money. I
Right.
made my first 6 figures in the corporate world, and I literally wanted to get that entrepreneurship, like being able to say I did that on my own. And when I
Mm-hmm.
made my first $10,000 a month, and I made it a couple of months after an entrepreneurship, I said, "Oh, so you got to be patient, and you have to be consistent and disciplined to be able to make that amount of money." Um, but the personal development comes into play is when that doesn't occur. When that money is,
Mm.
so I learned that I can endure anything. I am great at building relationships, and that I'm very selective in my business so that whatever I put my energy towards, I feel like it's paying off. And if it doesn't, I move quickly. Okay, I hire slow and fire fast.
I like that. I like that. Did you
So,
two want to add anything else about the industry and the importance of serving others, or is that pretty much
I
everything?
wanted to answer the first question. Sorry, you long-winded.
Okay, no,
I got
hey, the
three
floor is
questions.
yours.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
floor is yours. Yeah.
3 parts. I took
Yeah.
that in 3 parts.
Okay.
So part two, the second part of it is the industry as a
Mm-hmm.
whole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I realized was how valuable protecting, understanding, and valuing the asset that comes along with owning real estate has been paramount.
Yeah.
It has simply changed my life. It has helped me in ways that I have never imagined. I mean, I left medical school to do real estate. So I realized the
Interesting.
value that comes from respecting and understanding the equity that comes behind it. And so what I realized is that the the whole idea of real estate is really resilient, and it comes with a lot of strategy. So as long as you're willing to play the game, so to speak, and get in there with the understandings of the informations and the cycles of things, it is a beautiful thing. So real estate itself has just taught me the idea that everything has a solution.
Yeah.
It really, and it has helped me in every area of my life because there's not one thing that doesn't have a solution. Now, I'll tell you, it may not be the solution that we want,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
in general, there is a solution that exists. The solution may require more time, it may require more money, but there is a solution there.
Yeah.
And so, the idea behind strategizing and always coming to a yes, no matter how many no's that there are, that is like something that I feel like is like a life lesson. Like there's I couldn't really get that from anywhere else, you know. When you're a doctor, people come to you. So there's not
That's a good point.
knows that you get from other people.
Yeah.
But to be in the industry and serving from this side of it, and understanding that with service there also should be solution, and that's where the foundation of service really comes from. You know, that is the thing that I love and I have really taken from real estate, the industry of real estate.
Yeah,
Nice.
mine is a different viewpoint just simply because real estate is my skill. It's not necessarily fully who I am, but that is the business I chose. I feel like as entrepreneurs, a lot of people go into passion-based businesses and usually they don't last. So what I found for me as an entrepreneur is to go into a need-based business because people, they can choose who they want to go to, but they cannot choose to get it accomplished. Like they have to do it. So for me, I think when it comes to the business, I've been able to leverage a business that really was not built for us to be successful in. I mean, even to kind of hit on the community question, um, I take pride in being in the real estate industry, regardless of what that hat is for real estate tax, for real estate title, real estate underwriting, like whatever it is in real estate in general. I take pride in being a part of it, especially because we all started in mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they didn't want us to own houses. Like they put brick walls up to divide us. They did not educate us on how to acquire property in other areas that have value because we weren't allowed to be in those areas.
Right.
So for me, it's extremely important to be a part of an industry that only 6% are Black realtor women, So I find it extremely important and I take it personal when it comes to community and the business industry. What I've really learned is that us being in this industry is important,
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I want to expand, and what we're kind of creating a blueprint to do is expand of being prevalent in every area, from closing, with being lawyers, from positioning ourselves to educate people on how to be realtors and also buy real estate, and actually being examples. So yeah, that's my take on what I've learned from the business, and also why it's important to involve community. But you hit it on the head a couple minutes ago. You said you can only help who wants to be helped. So I'm being very observant and selective of who I engage myself with when it comes to art. And I just think it's important that even if some people are hard-headed, that you keep doing what you do, because at
Mm-hmm.
some maybe year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they'll get it. And some people it may be too late. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know, renting is great. Buying homes are great. Just leverage real estate in a way that you can make money, regardless if it's Airbnb, investing, even module homes or tiny homes or container homes.
Yep. Yep.
Being in this business allows me to make sure that regardless if we are living in huts, I can educate people on how to buy huts.
It
All
was
right.
like,
Yeah.
oh, go
The
ahead.
importance of serving others.
Yeah.
Yeah, the importance of serving others. So what I really would, let me just say this. Growing up, we can only pick industries based on what we gravitate towards or what we are exposed to.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when we were growing up, you were like going to the NBA. Clearly, I can't go to the NBA.
Music.
Music. You could be an artist. You could be a police officer. That's not my thing either. You could be a firefighter. not really passionate about that nurse, doctor, right? Medical field.
Yeah.
And so all of those things ideally are to help others. And I did
Yes,
know
sir.
from a very young age that I wanted to serve and that I wanted to help others. And I thought it would be through the realm of me being a pediatrician, just helping kids, but that was based off of my exposure to the medical field. I went and had physicals yearly, and that was I'm like, oh, I could do that, you know. So I made that decision and I stuck with it. I stuck with it all the way until I couldn't do it anymore. And I realized, I'm actually helping people with real estate because the same thing that I'm passionate about is something that our community is lacking. So I'm the agent where you're going to get a plethora of information from the educational side of it because that's what I love to do. And I do understand that now with me having this understanding and with me being able to pass this knowledge on, no, I'm not helping bodies physically,
Right.
but I am helping from a generational standpoint, and that is more impactful to me and in my journey while I am here doing things. It is more impactful for me to be able to help generations and generations and generations.
Right.
And the one thing that I also have always understood was the generational gap in wealth. And the one thing that bridges that and bridges it quickly is through the realm of real estate. So to be able to be the vessel to get this information to people that look like you and I is way more beneficial because that information can help them for generations to come than for me to just save a broken ankle.
Right. Um, for me,
Interesting.
when I love that. It's like, okay, I've always wanted to serve. I just found a different industry to serve. So I love that. I think when I heard the question, I think my mindset was really geared towards like how do you feel personally about serving people now, and so I think my answer to that is broadened because of what you said. It's kind of like everything that we do, we're serving someone. Like it doesn't matter what business we're in, even with the broadcasting and podcasting industry. Like you're serving us by providing a platform for us to educate people, and we're serving you to give you the ability to build relationships and really educate your platform, or maybe areas that you're not 100% clear on. So for me, when it comes to entrepreneurship, I feel like everything I do is serving. And I think it's imperative to be able to have credibility, a track record, and also resources so that it's
Yeah.
not just you profiting from it. My background outside of real estate has been in mentorship, and that came from just being in network marketing, to be honest. And a lot of people kind of jump away when they think about network marketing or MLM. And she always kids, she always talks about me. She's like, "Uh oh, here it comes." Because I always say, in my experience,
In my experience,
because we work with a brokerage that allows you to build a business and a team and a brokerage without like really the liability. It allows you to create a culture, and in my experience with network marketing, it allows me to really connect with people that have a common interest, and the way that they build the momentum in that environment is through personal development and education. So I drew close to that because that's the only way I thrive. You asked about our mornings. Like every morning, I have to listen to something that's inspirational, regardless if it's an audio book, meditation, maybe a podcast. I fell in love with podcasts because of that. And even books, and that is because that's what was instilled in me when I was 18, 19, and then flipped to 21, 22, 23. So I was literally like mentally, what do they say, built to be around that environment and thrive in that environment when it comes to mentorship. And that is how I've been able to find a way or a niche, I guess, to educate people in multiple industries, but mentoring people in real estate, to me, is the best way to serve people.
Right.
Because you're educating them on how to make a legacy and how to create. I hate the word generational wealth because they made it so cliche and generational curses.
I love it.
I know you love it, but I hate that word.
I love it.
But really, it just is educating you so that you can educate the people that come after you and
Gotcha.
give them an area to start. Because a lot of people didn't have an area to start, and that's why we're getting it out the mud. That's why we're out here making impulsive moves to make fast cash. It's really creating a foundation for people to start somewhere, regardless if it's getting a HELOC on the house or, essentially having the proper credit to go get a $25 to $50,000 credit line at KeyBank or whatever, or starting an LLC. And a lot of the people that I've been able to help over the last few years, they are listening to this information that's out here and they're doing something about it. Like this year, I had a client that bought a house that was close to 300,000, but a year ago her credit was at a 500. When she came back to me a year later, it was at a 725. And that's because they're actually using their resources and leveraging us as a household name, like a doctor or dentist and things like that. So, serving people is what we have to do because that's the only way we eat. That's it.
Yeah. Beautifully said right there. If I could just say the main thing that I took away from all of that, serving people is very, very important. Serving people in your community is even more important.
Okay.
But also education. Real quick, I got one last thing because what y'all said had me think of this one question. I want you both to answer it.
You're alive.
I want you both to answer this quickly if you can. Education is important, but how do you ensure not only are you educating your clients and others throughout the process or just period, but you also know that they understand it walking away? Earlier, one of you said something about sometimes a person can sign the closing disclosure and the closing documents at the table and still not know anything about what just happened. So how are you ensuring that not only are you passing that education on, but they actually know what you just told them?
One thing that I do is I explain it with very clear, detailed examples, stories. Like, you cannot forget stories. There's nothing that you can do to forget a story because they stand out. So with all of the documents that are being signed, I give stories as what could happen and what should happen and what could possibly happen. And it could be a story that has truly happened, but it could just be more of a scenario type thing. But I feel like once you understand, see, the thing is with real estate and with these documents, you have to understand the concept of the documents and why the documents even exist. And if you understand why the documents exist and where that positions you with this document existing, then you won't forget and you will understand. And another thing that I do, I don't just send documents to my clients initially when we initially start the process. So the majority of the documents and the majority of the information that needs to be explained happens very early on in the process, and then there are reminders and milestones that you achieve throughout the process. But very early on, it's about taking that time to make sure that you understand and having a conversation around all the information that's in front of us, because through conversation, that is when you can tell whether or not someone understands. But just throwing things in front of someone and expecting them to sign because excitement, fear, emotions in general will have you just sign sometimes. So you have to make sure that as a part of your passion and as a part of your duty that you are protecting them, whether they are the buyer or the seller. As your client, you need to protect them. And the only way that you can protect them is by making sure that they fully understand every part of the process and everything that they are signing. So having conversations, giving examples, those are the ways, and providing those, scenarios that for a fact you're going to remember. If I tell you this scenario, you're going to remember this. Having those kind of conversations helps for sure.
I think what she said is spot on. The only thing I would add is everybody won't remember and know everything. Like some things that happen in a transaction, we don't even disclose to our client unless legally we have to, and unless they have to be the decision maker. It's just that simple. In business, because we deal with people and we have relationships, what I see with new agents is that they disclose too much, to be honest, and it puts fear and delay and like causes issues. I feel personally from my experience when it comes to talking to a client, you want to give your client all the information they need to know to create a confident, right, exactly, informed decision. But little conversations you may have with the inspector, or little conversations you have with the bank, like, or the title company, like, you don't have to always, you can resolve an issue and then go to your client, letting them know what the problem was. This was my strategy, and this is the solution, and this is the piece you need to decide. That's just what it is. But everybody will not understand everything. I went to school for communication, and so I think it's a psychological thing when you're dealing with people. You know who you're dealing with. You know the person that's more analytical. You know the person that is more, visual, I would say in Brick's case, and you know the relationship with you have. So you have to be a chameleon with your clients. Like me personally, I'll deal with people with assertion, but also relatability. So I always do business, personal business. Okay.
Okay.
I don't care who you are. If you are a person that I don't know or a family friend, because a lot of our business after year 3 or 4 are referrals.
Correct.
Clients that we've done business with previously, or now finally somebody sees that we're consistent. I had a client that I did 2 transactions for, and they asked my mother, was I a real realtor? Okay. So people don't always believe in you, because different age brackets are not on social media or TikTok where we are forced to kind of market. So you have to kind of broaden yourself and do, okay, I'm going to do Facebook and LinkedIn, because people that are professional or maybe over 45, 50, these are the platforms that they use. So I don't expect my clients to know everything, but I am going to be very direct, and I'm going to have those hard conversations because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste yours. And even if we have listings, we have to go through multiple deals to get them closed. Like my last listing, I finally closed yesterday. We had 3 offers before the one that we accepted that we're in contract with, outside of the 8 that we received, for just, comparison or whatever. So
right.
Time.
Good points. So glad that you added that in there. Also, it's important because I hear that a lot from agents and from our guests about education. I educate them. That's fine. Everybody, for the most part, went to school, but how much of that information from school do you actually remember and or practice on a daily basis? So that's why I want to kind of get that apart. But you both explained that very, very well. You both gave a lot of great knowledge here on the closing table. We want to thank both of you for pulling up a chair to the closing table. And at this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, the floor is yours.
All right. Again, my name is Brittany Gardner. I'm known as Powerhouse Brit, so you can find me on things as Powerhouse Brit or Powerhouse Closings. It's been amazing. Thank you so much. We gotta do this again.
Yep. And then I'm Daisha Mac on Instagram, Daisha.Mac. You can always find us on multiple platforms. On Facebook is DayMac, but realistically, we are going to drop our information. Kevin is going to plaster our business numbers and emails, hopefully, so you guys can for sure connect with us, follow us, learn from us. If you're in a different state, you do have the potential to still do business with us. We do also have contacts in different areas within the world, from South Africa, Nigeria, Europe, Canada, so we definitely do business in different areas. I know domestically, Britt mentioned earlier that we serve Georgia, Virginia, and I know we're working on the West Coast,
Texas,
Florida, Texas. But he wrote his notes. Nice. And then we also are serving the West Coast very shortly. But just reach out and learn from us. You don't have to do a transaction. You don't have to do business. Just share a post. You know, that is the priceless.
Man. Talk about it, for real, for real. Well, thank you again so much for being here. We appreciate you for accepting our invitation, taking time out of your day. And at this point, for our YouTube watchers, if you've gotten to this point in the video, do us all a favor and hit that like button, please and thank you. Make sure you also share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, give us that 5-star rating, and also subscribe for our latest content. Ladies, before we leave, very briefly, I like to leave our audience with a question. That way, you know, they can leave with something to think about. So this is for you, audience. What did you like or dislike about purchasing or selling a home with a family member who is either the agent or who was your client? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.